Dear students, a very warm good morning to all of you. Once again, I would like to welcome all of you to a new session of the history class. Today, we are going to continue with the same chapter, chapter number 6, Mahatma Gandhi and the National Movement, part 3. Do you remember what we were discussing in part 2? If you are not remembering, I would like to grab your attention to those points which we were discussing in the last class. First of all, we were discussing about objectives of non-corporation movement. Second one, activities of the Indians, or in other words, what were the contributions of the Indians towards the non-corporation movement. And third one, repression by the British, or the reaction of the British. And the fourth one, suspension of non-corporation movement by Mahatma Gandhi due to Chauri Chaura incident. So these were the main points which we were discussing in the last class. Those who haven't got much idea about this part, please just watch the video which I have uploaded in the last class. So today we are going to discuss about two important points which are the continuation of the previous class. First one, impact of non-corporation movement, and the second one, factors led to the civil disobedience war. The main factors we are going to discuss is Symon Commission and Declaration of Poorna Swaraj. These are the main factors. So these are the points which we are going to discuss in detail. So without wasting time, let's move to the topic. When we discuss about the impact, they are mainly 7 in number. First one, national movement became a mass movement. Confidence among the people. Third one, Congress became a revolutionary party. Fourth one, fostered Hindu-Muslim unity. Fifth one, promoted social reforms. Sixth one, spread nationalism to every part of the country. And the last one, it popularized the cult of Swaraj. So these are the main different impacts of non-corporation movement. So let's see these points in detail, each one in detail. National movement became a mass movement. Involvement of all sections of the society. You might be remembering when we were dealing with the first chapter of history, the First War of Independence 1857. In that chapter, at the first part of the chapter, we have seen a particular point, the involvement of different groups in the First War of Independence 1857. There we have seen a small group had taken active participation in the First War of Independence 1857. So that's why it was one of the reasons behind the failure of the First War of Independence. But here, when the time passed, different people, different organizations, different sections of the society had taken an active participation or started to take an active participation in the national movement. All the sections like peasants, students, teachers, women, not only just 4 groups, but all the different sectors, those who are having different professions, those who belongs to different economic conditions or economic status, all those people started to take part in the national movement. But again, a small group of people were not ready to join this movement, like industrialists, capitalists and zamindars. So these people were always getting benefit from the British, and the British also were always getting benefit from these people. So it was something like supporting each other. Of course, an industrialist should get support from the British. Capitalists, zamindars, they were not ready to lose their power, because zamindars were the people who were ruling a small area or a small province. So they were not ready to lose their power by joining in the national movement. And the second one is confidence among the people. People became more confident towards the nationalism. People started to feel like they must get freedom. So it became a desire for the people, and people started to desire for freedom, because the leaders who were working behind it, they were always urging the people about the importance of freedom, and they make the people understand or make the people realize that what is the real nature of the British. So all those inspired the people, and the people started to feel like freedom is very necessary for them. Then again, inspired people to challenge the British. Challenging British is something like playing with fire. They were knowing it, but still people were ready to do it because they were having that much desire for the freedom. And the third important impacts of non-corporation movement is Congress became a revolutionary party. So in the beginning, Congress was not a revolutionary party. It acted as a medium to organize people, but now it is acted as an organization of action, because all the different decisions will be taken by the leaders, and they have told the followers, all to the society, to act according to that. So that's why for the British it was a big headache, because Congress have achieved such a great state in the minds of the people. It also acted as an organizer. As I have told in the beginning, they were really focusing on organizing the people, but now it acted as an organizer, and it acted as an organization of action. Again, leader of the masses. That means Congress became the leadership, or they have taken the leadership to achieve freedom. So it was the third point, Congress became a revolutionary party. And the fourth point says that it fostered Hindu-Muslim unity, because we have already seen, due to different reasons, there was a very huge gap between Hindus and Muslims, especially in the case of their unity. From partition of Bengal, we have seen it. The partition of Bengal done by Lord Curzon focused on dividing people in the name of religion. So it was one of the main reasons from where people started to divide people on, or the authorities started to divide people on the basis of their religion. So it affected a lot, especially the unity of the people. Achieve unity between Hindus and Muslims. So one of the main achievement of this movement was it created, or it gave unity, or it created or fostered unity between Hindus and Muslims. The next point says that union of Khilafat movement with Congress. We have already seen what is Khilafat movement, which had happened due to the failure of Turkey in the First World War, in which British fought against Turkey, and it led to the beginning of Khilafat movement in India. And again we have seen Gandhiji has elected as the president of All India Khilafat movement, which is with the support of the Congress. So all these helped to foster the relationship between Hindus and Muslims, especially Hindu-Muslim unity. And again, urban Muslims entered into national movement. They educated people from the urban areas, those who were having good vision and good leadership quality. They have started to join national movement. So these were the main points which comes under the fostered Hindu-Muslim unity. And the fifth point says that it promoted social reforms. All the leaders were knowing it very well. Different kinds of social inequalities will affect the growth of national movement. So that's why they were always thinking, they were always advising the people to avoid such kinds of untouchability and social evils. So prohibition of untouchability and other social inequalities really helped or promoted the nationalism, and these kinds of social reforms really helped for the growth of the union in India. And again, national schools and colleges were set up in different parts of the country under the leadership of different nationalist leaders. They have founded a huge number of schools and colleges, and all the schools and colleges were just teaching about nationalism. So through that, a new generation came out from the education, or came out from the schools, who were having the power and fire of nationalism. Then promotion of Indian handicrafts and industries. So if a person who is ready to produce something from his own hard work, all those products were getting acceptance in Indian society, because the leaders were focusing on promoting Indian handicrafts and other products. Again, Khadi became a symbol of national movement. You might have noticed even now a lot of people are using Khadi products. Even some political parties are using Khadi products. All those ideas were being drawn out during the time of this movement, because Khadi became a national symbol of national movement. Sixth point says that spread nationalism to every part of the country. So non-cooperation movement helped to achieve this particular ideology, and for that the different political parties, especially Indian National Congress, had played a great role in that. They have made provincial congress committees in every part of the country. So all those committees were really working from the grassroots level. Their focus was from the grassroots level, even from the smallest village, even from the corner of each and every corner of the nation. So it was their main motive. Working committees were set up along with the president and secretaries. Altogether 15 members will be there in the working committee, and this working committee was focusing on grassroots level growth of nationalism, reach down to the villages. Each and every single corner of the village should be getting the messages of nationalism. Then membership was almost free, like just 4 annas was the amount for the membership. So all this led to the spread of nationalism to every part of the country. Then the 7th point says that it popularized the cult of Swaraj. The concept of Swaraj, that means Swaraj within British Empire. The leaders were knowing it very well that within one day they can't throw the British people outside our country. So that's why they thought of achieving this Poorna Swaraj or complete freedom through number of steps. And as the first step, they have demanded for Swaraj within British Empire. Then the second one, mass participation. Because one single group or a small group of people were not enough to fight against the British, and the leaders were knowing it very well that if they want to achieve their freedom, mass participation is very necessary. So these are the main different impacts of non-cooperation movement. Now we are moving to the next part of the chapter, that is factors led to the civil disobedience movement. So we have already seen Mahatma Gandhi had withdrawn the non-cooperation movement because of the Chauri Chaura incident. So instead of non-cooperation movement, now under the leadership of the Congress, they have put forward a new methodology, a new way to strike against the British, to oppose the British. That is civil disobedience movement. Before we go in details, or before we go into the details of civil disobedience movement, let's see what were the different factors, what were the reasons which led to the formation of civil disobedience movement. And altogether there are two different reasons. First one is Symon Commission, and the second one is Declaration of Poorna Swaraj. These are the two main reasons behind the formation or the beginning of civil disobedience movement. Let's see both these points in detail. First of all, Symon Commission. In 1927, the British government has appointed an Indian statutory commission, and they have got appointed with a very definite purpose. And this particular commission is being known as Symon Commission because Sir John Symon was the head of this commission, and they were having an aim, and it was the need of constitutional reforms. So as I have told you, Sir John Symon was the chairman of this commission, so that's why this particular commission has got named after him. It is being known as Symon Commission, and the main aim of this commission was about the further need of constitutional reforms. Number of reforms have taken place or even the number of leaders have demanded for constitutional reforms. Especially they were demanding for Swaraj within the British administration or within the British Empire. So in order to study about all these factors, this commission has got appointed. But in fact, there were no Indians in this commission. Altogether 7 delegates or 7 members were there in the commission, but none of them were Indians. All those members were from British Parliament. So that's why what had happened, the people of India were not happy with the Symon Commission, and they felt like an insult to the self-respect of the Indians. So there the people of India came to know that what is the real intention or what is the real respect of the British towards Indians. So they felt like it is really an insult to the Indians. That's why they were not ready to cooperate with the Symon Commission. In 1927, in the Madras session, Congress declared Symon Commission, or they have decided to boycott the Symon Commission, because Suppose you just imagine you want to study about America or you want to study about Britain. What will you do? Directly you will go to the Britain and study about it? I don't think that you will be doing that, because if you want to know about Britain or if you want to study about America, you will definitely go to America and will take the help of some Americans to study about America, or you will go to England and will take some British to study about the Britain. So that what was needed. But in the case of Symon Commission, there were no Indians who actually came to study about India, but in fact it was not the real intention of the British. So the people of India felt it is something like an insult. So Congress party in the Madras session of 1927, they have decided to boycott the Symon Commission, and they were being supported by the Muslim League, Muslim Hindus. There was already a gap between Hindus and Muslims, we have already seen, but here it has supported by the Muslim League. They also joined with the Congress and was ready to oppose or boycott the Symon Commission. And now finally the Symon Commission have arrived in Mumbai February 3rd. So at Bombay they have arrived on February 3rd. But the people of India welcomed them in a very different way. Or they have declared an All India Hartal to show the reaction of the people towards the British. Since there were no Indians in the commission, for whom they will be really working for Indians or for the British? So that's why the people have declared, especially the Congress announced that they will be observing the day as an All India Hartal. And again they have welcomed the Symon Commission with the slogan, Symon go back. So this is about Symon Commission, which led to the beginning of civil disobedience movement. So first reason is Symon Commission. Symon Commission have made a number of recommendations. Let's see what all recommendations have made by Symon Commission. So these are the different recommendations made by the Symon Commission. Diarchy to be abolished, because two different administrative centers should not be there, it must be one. Then again, second one, complete freedom for the provinces. Provinces should be granted with all the different freedoms. And again, third one, provincial legislative council to be enlarged. The different provincial legislatives are there which functions under the British Empire. It should be increased. The number of councillors and council should be enlarged or increased. Then federal government at the center to comprise British India as well as princely states. Again, the fifth one, Governor General to have the freedom to select and appoint members of his cabinet. That means they will not be elected by the people. So Governor General, who is the head of our nation during the time of British, he will be having the freedom to choose any members and appoint members of his cabinet. That means those members will not be elected by the people of India. Then British troops and regiments to stay in Indian regiments for many more years. Even if the British people are providing administration to Indians, British troops will be having power to remain in India for many more years. And high courts to be under the administrative control of government of India. That means it will be under the British. It is not having any kind of contact between British and India. So these were the last one, communal representation will continue. That means on the basis of religion there will be separations, and representation, reservation, all those things will continue. These were the 8 different points or recommendations made by Symon Commission. And now we are going to see the second main reason behind the beginning of civil disobedience movement, and that is declaration of Poorna Swaraj. In the Calcutta section of the Indian National Movement, they have studied about different incidents which had taken place in India. So after studying about all those incidents, they have given a warning to the British government. A warning given by Congress to the British government. And they have put forward 3 different concepts. First one, to accept Nehru report. Second one, 1 year time limit. And third one, face mass movement. That means they asked the British government to accept the Nehru report, and they have given 1 year time limit, and if the British are not ready to accept Nehru report and other implementations, they will face mass movement. So this is what was the warning, ultimatum given by the Congress to the British government. But even after completing 1 year, there was no any response, not even a positive. There was no response from the British government. So in 1929, at the Lahore session of the Indian National Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru was elected as the president, and under him they have passed a resolution, and they have declared Poorna Swaraj as the objective of Congress. That means they have left all other demands. They declared now Indian National Congress will be having one and only aim or objective, that will be Poorna Swaraj. So in order to achieve this objective, or in order to achieve this goal, that means Poorna Swaraj, Indian National Congress under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru, they have put forward a number of programs, and the first one was preparation for civil disobedience. So for the first time in the history, the leaders have introduced a new method to fight against the British, that is civil disobedience. So they have informed the followers to prepare for the civil disobedience. The second one, Swaraj would mean complete independence. So it was not something like the previous demands. What was the previous demand? An administrative structure or a government under the British. But now they are asking for complete independence. Now we will rule our country. We don't want the help of British. So that is meant by Poorna Swaraj, which introduced by the British in the Lahore session under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. Then they have attained the aim, or they have focused on the aim, complete independence by all means. Then they have declared January 26 as Poorna Swaraj Day. So you might have noticed what is the main reason, or what is the impact of, or what is the importance of January 26 in our country right now. Yeah, it is declared as the Republic Day of our nation. But you know, for the first time in the history of our politics or our Indian national movement, January 26 has got its own importance, because in the Lahore session under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru, they have declared that January 26 will be the day of Poorna Swaraj. That means complete independence was used or demanded for the first time in the history of India. That was on 26 January, or sorry, they have declared that day will be the day of Poorna Swaraj, and they have started to observe January 26 as Poorna Swaraj Day. And it was not only that, during the Lahore session, Jawaharlal Nehru has hoisted the tricolor flag for the first time in the history of India. So that is the importance. So that's why in 1950, when India became a complete, or India achieved the state of complete independence, and we have declared Republic Day, the leaders considered January 26 as the Republic Day and August 15 as the Independence Day. So first they were deciding to fix January 26 as the Independence Day, but due to some other reasons it has got fixed on August 15. But they were not ready to forget the date January 26 from the history. That's why right now we are celebrating January 26 as the Republic Day. So that's about the fourth point. And fifth one, resignation of members from legislature. From different parts of the country, people were getting elected to the legislatures rather than, or the representatives of the Governor General. So those elected members decided to resign from their post, especially from the legislature. Then finally, sixth point says that withdraw public association with the British government, withdraw all the possible contact, all the possible help. That means finally the International Congress declared this British government as their enemy. They decided to withdraw all the associations with the British government. So these were the different programs introduced by the International Congress during the Lahore session under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. They have introduced these programs as a beginning or as an introduction to the civil disobedience movement. So dear students, these are the main points which I want to share with you today. So here we are winding up today, and tomorrow we will continue with the next or the continuation of this topic, that is about the civil disobedience movement. So there we will be seeing what really meant by civil disobedience movement, what were the different incidents and elements related to civil disobedience movement. So I would like to sign off from today's class. Thank you.